Okay, so thanks for joining us. This is the DNX Show. We're here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. There's two hosts of the show. Myself, I'm Todd Ryan, and my other host is Josh Reeson. Seems like now we got everything rolling online. We also stream live on YouTube, so you can check us out there. That's youtube.com/TRABC. That's one of them. We're going to probably start. I would say we'll get these on Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. It's pretty impressive to do that, I guess. Just kidding. We get Josh up here and we'll get rolling. Like I said, got a lot of topics today, a lot of interesting stuff, and I was even going to touch on the conference from last week. Hey, good afternoon, Josh. How's everything going?
Going well. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, things are pretty smooth out here. I mean, it's I guess cooling down a little bit. But so what is it like right now? I mean, is it still burning up there? Did it cool down a little bit where you're at?
It's cooled down a little bit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we both had hot summers. Hey, well, we got a lot to go over today. I did listen to last week's show, and I was going to say, yeah, pretty smooth. I'll talk about that LA Rams thing. You guys already hit it right out of the park. Josh, I think you did a great job basically, um, just touching on it from a person that's not an attorney, but it seems like everybody in our space has gotten to be pretty well versed in domain name law. But we'll touch on that in a second, but not much because and I'll tell you why. But first, I wanted to just go off and say, yeah, last week, so I wasn't around. We had that nice conference, and it was cool seeing folks and a couple people that I um, was introduced to, met for the first time. Or actually, that's not true because I saw Brady at the ICA meetup, but he was at my poker table. I think when you were at my table too at the very beginning, Josh. Brady might have been there, but he didn't remember because he was loaded. But anyway, so I had a chance to speak with him and really enjoyed his company at this event. He calls a lot of the domainers boomers. Yeah, he'd probably call you a boomer too, Josh. You might make it not as a boomer, but anybody older than him, which is 25 to 30, he's like all these boomers, and at least he's open about it. Basically, he's not trying to sugarcoat or be nice to anybody. He's called boomer right to everybody's face. Boomer, boomer, boomer. And like he's going around playing duck, duck, goose. Boomer, boomer, boomer. And okay, so it was really nice meeting him and seeing a few others. But that was one of the topics, Josh, I wanted to bring up today. The importance of going to these events because the only people that I've ever, really started business relationships with are not only did I wait and watch them for 5 or 10 years or even longer, meaning in the domain business, then started becoming friends with them by going to events and then becoming friends with them for 2, 3, or 4 or 5 years before I would ever consider doing a business with them. And I have businesses with two domainers now, Chad Fogarty and Jeff Newman, and it's because of very slow, no, watching them in the business, and then very slow at building relationships, personal with them. But it really came down to being around them in person, and looking them in the eye. I never do business, just like, hey, so we met online. But and if you're um, what do they call it, incognito, or you're not doxed, and you think I'm going to even do much with you at all, I'll talk with you on the internet, but I really don't care for that at all. Meaning, I like to have deep conversations with folks, or even share a lot of the information. I'm thinking, I don't care if you're sharing great stuff. I like to know a little bit who you are. And then some people are around the world, so we know they can't always meet up in person. But Josh, how valuable over the last 4 or 5 years have in-person conferences been for you?
Um, well, I would say that in the grand scheme of things, close to one of the most valuable things that I've done since being in the domain industry is developing face-to-face relationships with uh, with people in the space. Yeah, there might not be anything more important than that, actually, in my opinion.
You really can get a vibe for a person too. And a lot of people aren't going to agree on a lot of things. Like some people might disagree, definitely on politics, but on how to raise your kids or how you should budget when it comes to, or how aggressive you might be with regards to domain investing. But when you meet people face to face and you just obviously this is just silly to say, I guess, because a lot of folks know this, but it's like a lot of the guys now, I'm much more likely to do business with them with their companies, now that uh, I really like Brady. I like all the stuff that he learned this last year. So it really makes me feel much more comfortable when I do business with Unstoppable. But I've watched Matt, and I'm impressed that Matt, um, how he's really just basically steered the company. He thinks it's not great in that direction, steered it over in this direction. So I'm not going to say about any of the personnel over there that I wasn't impressed with, because these guys have fucking covered that up. But anyway, so meeting folks in person, definitely important. And I was going to say, about the just likely to not only do business with people, but do business with their companies. Because let's face it, at this last event, there was, Brady repping Unstoppable. There was this gentleman, Gavin, representing Ezoic, Ezoic, who offers ads on your pages. And I heard Ish talking about it um, later in his room on Saturday. That was basically they always bring up the case where this company makes 100 grand a month or 200 grand a month, but most of them don't. But anyway, this company that Gavin was representing, I liked it that he was like, hey, there's, sometimes you don't get approved for these programs, but I'll help you get approved, even if you're using AI to build your content on a page and you want to put some ads up there and see if you can make any money. You don't know until you try. But a lot of vendors go to these you know conferences, and it's before you start doing business with them, it is nice to feel like you have a personal relationship to reach out to a person. But just wanted to tell people I really enjoyed seeing folks, and of course mostly it was just wanted to hang out with Paul, a friend of mine, and then hang out with Braden a little bit. You have some laughs, of course. I don't have to go to Las Vegas to cross paths with him, but it was good seeing Mike Gaffney, a lot of guys that have met at NamesCon a few years back, and then I see him now, and it's like long lost friends. Hey, okay, we'll get right into it. I appreciate everybody being here. We're gonna try to go for to 11:55 my time. That'll be 2:55, I think. Yes, 2:55 on the East Coast. But if you raise your hand, come on up. It's an open conversation. I was going to start off asking Josh a couple his thoughts on these, LTOs. But first, I would ask about buying on LTOs. Josh, you alluded to that you had a couple buys on, through Unstoppable on LTOs, and you really liked the experience. Tell us about why you liked it and any other details you can share.
I just liked it because I thought that, well, this particular seller was selling names at a fairly low price. I would say slightly like above. I would say above wholesale and maybe slightly below what I would consider retail. But this particular seller was selling them at on 10-year terms, with no interest, no down payment, none of that. So, um, I'm completely okay. But just based on the market, and if you're investing in certain types of names, I feel fairly comfortable overpaying for certain types of names, uh, if I can pay for them over a 10-year period, because these names often are going up in value anyway. Um, and if they're priced high wholesale, um, just easy to pull the trigger on those type of names. So and yeah, it was the names quickly went into my unstoppable domains account, and was able to manage them pretty quickly. Um, yeah, I bought. I don't mind sharing the names either. I bought AmericanStore.com, SolarEV.com, and NextEconomy.com. So yeah, and I don't know, like I think they were all priced in like 5 to 10K range. Um, yeah, over 10 years, you're talking about like $50 to $80 in monthly payments. Um, and all of those three names, I feel like are, for me, I would probably be asking around like 50K on each of them. So yeah, I mean, I think that's cool. I think that there is a future in buying domain names that way, even from an investment perspective. So I'm all for it.
Not a future, it's like present. I mean, you're doing it for that exact reason, for investment. Well, so all three of those, is it, I don't know if you know this answer, but are is it by default it goes to 10 years? I mean, max is 10 years, so that's the longest. And is that was available for all three of those names? Do you notice on some names that it's not available for that long of a lease? I mean,
Yeah,
does the
I think there were a few names that weren't. So this is 120 months. I think some of them I saw that were like 90. Um, I'm not sure what the default is. I haven't set up any for sale myself. I mean, from a seller standpoint, I would never do anything like that unless I was getting a high retail price, right? Um, so uh, yeah.
I mean, the certainly a long time, 10 years. So as a seller, the reason I think 5 years is reasonable, and then we'll talk why 10 years can be reasonable for the seller. For the buyer, it really makes sense because you're thinking, if you're really bullish on the domain industry, the domain aftermarket, and then specifically the domains you're picking up, well, heck, then fantastic. By the time, years 4, 5, 6, 7 come around, you've already expected that name's appreciated quite a bit. So right now you're just, paying these. Well, Josh, quickly, is there interest on these? So when you pay 5,000 over 10 years, is
No
it
interest.
5,000?
Yeah, no
Yeah.
interest. Yeah, I mean, listen, above 10 years, I think that I would get a little squirmish as a seller, just because as a seller and a buyer, really. Just because 10 years is a long time. I'm not sure what the industry will look like in 10 years' time. I feel pretty confident about what it will look like in 5. Not so sure about 10. 15 is, I would say more likely than not, it will look quite a lot different. So yeah, I don't know, but where I was initially going to go with that is, I would sell a name over 10 years, but it would just be a much higher price than if I sold it to you in cash, like a much higher price. So yeah,
Well, for the big names, it really makes sense if I'm thinking somebody's trying to sell a name for 1 million, 2 million, and the buyer wants to pay over 10 years. If they, it doesn't mean they have to have a low cost basis going in, but some of our friends, have registered names 25 years ago that are seven-figure names. So they might have in at $300. Of course, then I tell them, yeah, if somebody needs 10 years to pay you 2 million. Fuck, man. It seems wonderful. I mean, basically, it makes.
but again, it depends on the name, right? It depends on the name. If if it's a solid, you know, oneword.com, with hundreds of companies using that exact match and taking in, let's say, 150 plus TLDs, I might not, I might not want to sell it over 10 years for a couple million. I might, at that point, I may say I would prefer to wait and get something in that seven-figure range, get 1.5 in cash. Um, I might say, if you want to pay over 10 years, something longer like that, I'm going to be looking for more than what I think it's worth.
Well, sure, Josh. That's what you just said, and I would agree. So you're wanting 1 million for it. Somebody says they need to pay over 10 years. I think there's two things I would do is say, well, let's talk a little bit about the payment, the down payment, because if you can put up 200, I'm going to be asking now 2 million for it or 2.5 million for it. Okay, but if you could, if I ask you, um, I'm just assuming if they want a 10-year payment plan, they probably don't have a lot of money for a down payment even. So you really do, then I would consider like tripling the price if they would, you want to buy it, this name willing to go 1 million for, it's going to be 2.5 to 3 million if you do it over 10 years. But it would strike me as like the mortgage market. Yeah, people pay a lot more for a house because they can finance it over 30 years. I think it can really help the high end market, meaning it certainly shouldn't make the prices go lower if people can finance over a long period of time. But yeah, I'm thinking, listen, I'm sure a lot of folks in the audience, come on, raise your hand, come on up and tell us what you think about these long-term LTOs. They're not going anywhere. They're just coming into the party right now. So it's not like, the, there's probably going to be, I don't know, the issues are always the same, and that is the person quits paying. All right, well, you get the name back. And a lot of people act like, but I didn't want the name back. Well, then make sure you get a good enough down payment that you feel like you got something out of the transaction. And I don't see. Oh, there's a request. I'm on my phone today, so. Um, but we'll get into possible terrible things that can happen. Elliot, I think it was in domain investing. He mentioned you know an LTO if it's a name that somebody may end up using for porn because you think it's one of your names has a sound that could be possibly in a industry that could cause you some problems. You might want to turn off LTO. But bottom line is the LTO is here to stay. It helps you sell your names. The longer the LTO, from according to Darpin at Adam and other, and all the guys, Alan over at GoDaddy, the LTO just only increases your sales chance. So, and it seemed to me the longer the LTO, of course, is just going to help you get names sold, but we are going to start seeing some issues, obviously more non-payments and so on. Arif, thanks for joining us. What comment did you have?
Hey guys, yeah, that was my concern too. Is what possible consequences there could be? Because at 10 years, the person is paying less than 1% the first couple of months, right? So it's the risk is obviously the content. That's one thing, but it's not just that. It's also, are they going to turn around and try to outbound it and then burn like most of the bridges of potential buyers, and then just if it doesn't sell, they stop paying after the first month, right? There's things like that. Like it's the other side is yeah, they sell it and then they pay you off completely, which is good, right? So it could go both ways, but there is a risk, and there are some people I think that would abuse it. I think for the most part it'll be fine. Like most people have the best of intentions, I think, and LTO is just a way of making things more affordable over the long term. So I think there's more benefits than not, but it certainly is not without the risks.
Yeah, Josh, what are the biggest risks you think? I mean, have you experienced any negatives with your existing LTOs?
Uh, from a selling standpoint,
Yep.
no, I'm not overly worried about that. People talk about the risks all the time, but I think that there are risks in anything. Um, and I think I've discussed this before. It's like I don't know anyone um, that has been materially impacted by offering a lease to own and the domain being used in some way that negatively impacted their domain name. So their investment or whatever you want to call it. So no, I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah, and in fairness, nor have I. I think I've heard like one story like 5 years ago, type of thing. Like it's pretty rare.
And right, and the negative folks that say, I know Anita had posted that she finally sold some names. She had like a year dry spell. She was just really freaking out about it. And I'm friends with Anita, and I was really glad that she sold some names. I'm glad when anybody sells names. Listen, most of the time you're just trying to keep your head above water in this space, and we all invest in domains differently. I was going to talk about, well, I got several things to talk about today, but Anita had sold 4 names, but unmind.ai, she sold for 8,888 over a 48-month, lease. Okay, well, I don't know. I think even John Berryhill chimed in on that. John's just chiming in on everything. I'm, I say lucky enough. I hope he's listening to this, because I don't know if it's lucky. And I get to, speak to him sometimes outside of this thing now. So we're doing a couple panels at NamesCon, and we become friends. And yeah, he fucking, jumps on everybody. He was jumping on Adam about their trademark lawsuit. Not too bad. He could probably help. He has real, a lot of comments on what domainers are doing, even with Anita's domain sale, and her accepting, you know, payments. And I think, I think we all know it might take her 4 years to sell that name. Okay, so instead she's going to get payments over 4 years. It's better. It's much better than nothing, no sale, because sometimes the bus never comes back around to buy. No one's there to buy that name. That buyer goes away, buys something else, or whatever, never comes back around. So we know you can easily not sell a name when you're in negotiation on it, and then it doesn't sell for another 4 years. So it's certainly not your first choice. I mean, not mine. I want to get paid in full. I prefer no LTOs. I got some going now, and I'm thrilled that I got them. But I wish they got paid off. Just rather have the money now than over time. But it's absolutely much. I mean, obviously, much better than no sale at all and waiting around for a sale. We're talking about LTOs. We're going to be jumping around to some other topics, but if you have any um, comments, or you just want to add to the discussion, raise your hand, because I'd like to hear what people are thinking about this 10-year LTO. I mean, I think it's overall it's good. Arif said it, more benefits than disadvantages, but I still like to hear what others have to say.
As a buyer, obviously it's great. I think what Josh is doing is really smart. As a seller, I like that we're starting to see a couple of players in the industry implementing the possibility of putting a higher first payment. To me, that's like crucial, right? I like to have the buyer have some skin in the game. And that will avoid most of the things that we're talking about, most of the risks and stuff like that. If somebody's gonna put 25% down, chances are they're more serious as a buyer. Obviously it might eliminate a couple of sales, but I think that's a sweet like middle point, like compromise, where the sweet spot where it's like, okay, it eliminates quite a bit more risk, but it still gives some flexibility to the buyer. And I think it's a good compromise. And I like that some of these I think Unstoppables just started with that. I mean, obviously the key is for Afternic to implement that, but we'll see if that ever comes. But I think that's the key missing thing from Afternic right now.
Hey, Ish, thanks for joining us on stage. Before I get to you, I wanted to make a comment to you about your event. But first, I want to ask Josh a quick question. So, Josh, there's no prepayment penalties on these lease to own, so you can just pay them off anytime. And were all your down payments the same, or does some people have some flexibility? Were they wanting more of a down payment for some, or was it just always, an equally divided into the number of months?
Yeah, I don't know. I think in V1 it's just equally divided right now. I expect that they'll iterate beyond that, but yeah, currently it's just equally divided between whatever months is offered slash selected.
You like to strike while the iron's hot, huh? Before people get their shit together.
Yeah, before
It's like,
people realize what they're doing. Yeah.
right. It's like you go to the garage sale before somebody comes and tells you, yeah, all these records here are worth a lot. I'll take all these and all the shoes. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm Josh. I live
exactly.
across the street.
When you go to a garage sale and you see something valuable, you don't say, "Hey, sir, this is valuable."
Yeah. You almost act like you don't want it. I guess I'm going to take this whole table. And all right. Hey, Ish, I was talking about your event when we first got here, just the importance of meeting folks in person. So that was the main thing, that thank you for putting together a meetup. And that was the most valuable, of just saying hi to folks, having some laughs. And then, of course, you had a full day of some valuable sessions that everybody learned a lot from, but it was really just once again meeting people in person, saying hi, and then basically getting together again. Like I said, I hadn't seen Mike Gaffney for a couple of years. It's nice to see him. I'm good friends with Paul, talk with him all the time, but I don't get a chance to see him. So we get together and we can look each other and I go, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he goes, "You gained a little weight." And I said, "Yeah, I haven't been running. Thanks, Paul." But anyway, Ish, thanks for joining us. Thanks for putting on the event. Tell us, what comments do you have about the topic and anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, thanks for circling back on that. It was definitely great seeing you. And Paul and everyone who showed up. I had a good time. Already making plans of doing the next one in April in Los Angeles. Yeah, I think it's important that people get out there, go to NamesCon, Domain Days Dubai, support the people that make the initiative to bring us all together. And I think there's a lot of value in just going out there and shaking hands and connecting deeper with people outside of this social media platforms. But about LTO, I'm excited. At first, when I saw 10 years, um, I guess my initial reaction was, who's going to sell a name over 10 years? And I thought about it and I was like, this is actually good because now we're treating this stuff like a mortgage. And the reality is, there are a lot of names that cost more than most people's homes. And, people stretch that out over 30 years. And, what an opportunity to be able to make more sales and make more acquisitions. I personally sold an LTO this morning on Spaceship for 35 grand. And I was able to talk to the guy and negotiate what I thought was a reasonable down payment. They paid 6 grand, and they're gonna pay the rest over the next 24 months. So it works. It helps you move more names, and like Josh is brilliantly doing, helps you acquire more names as well. And then they also allow you to do it for up to $2 million, which is insanely good.
Yeah, I don't know why GoDaddy doesn't let you do it over 100,000. It seems like it would be just the opposite, like they would want to make it available for the higher price stuff. But Ish, congratulations, 35 grand for a name, but still great down payment. So at Spaceship, you can select the down payment and the terms. You can select 23 months if you wanted, and then there's no. I mean, tell us about the fees. Tell us a little bit about how that worked, how you selected the down payment, how you input it. I mean, how do you complete the transaction? Because you're responsible for doing it yourself through Spaceship. So tell us more.
Yeah, well, I put most of my names on my own lander. So I woke up yesterday to an offer. The gentleman said, we're going to offer you 24 payments of $1,000 each and a 1% equity in our company. And I was like, well, let's set up a time to chat. So I said, let's have a different conversation about the equity. This is how much I want for the names. I gave him three options. You can pay 25,000 right now, or you can pay $29,000. I'm going to charge you 5,000 for every additional year that you finance it. And so you know, we settled on 35,000 over 24 months. And I said I need at least $6,000 because I had to explain to him. I was like, what if you end up, failing at your efforts? This name is going to be impacted by that. And they really wanted the name, and they basically, were adamant on, purchasing that name, and he felt comfortable with the down payment. And I woke up this morning and he texted me, said it was done. And I verified on Spaceship. So I'm just waiting for the payment. But I was able to change the lander from my lander to Spaceship to accommodate those terms. And it allows you to put a down payment, and the last month's payment will be $1,000. So whatever those numbers came out to, 1,217 and some change was what he has to pay every month. But he's already made the payment for the 6 grand. They take their 5%. So I'm expecting a $5,700 payment from Spaceship today or tomorrow.
So they just take 5% out of each payment, not the total 5%, obviously. So they didn't take 5% of 35 grand, which is 1750,
No, no, they
right?
took 5% of the down payment, and I expect
I
them to
get you.
take 5% of the payments. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's awesome. I mean, awesome to know. It'd be a year before I sell one through Spaceship on a lease to own, and I'll always wonder. Yeah, go ahead. Somebody wanted. Oh, that was Ish. Um, She's fantastic. Tell us more. I guess as you've already told us the whole nuts and bolts of it. I'm assuming. I mean, no telling the name until it's done. I mean,
Oh,
let the
I don't give
guy.
a shit. The name
What
was
is it?
prepaidai.com.
Prepaidai.com. I just noticed remember.ai. Oh, .ai sold for 53,500. We're going to go to some of the prepaidai.com 35,000. Jeez. Well, Josh, do you have any of these, ending in AI, or do you just have the .ais? I mean, what's the breakdown of what you have in your portfolio?
Yeah, I have quite a lot of them. Um, I sold startai.com in this maybe like a month or two ago for 50 grand over 12 months. I think they've made one or two payments. So yeah, it's pretty early. But yeah, I have, how many do I have? Maybe like 50 of them. I have some pretty good ones like exploreai.com, discoverai.com, uh, amplifyai.com, brainwave.ai.com. Like, yeah, I have a lot, and I have a lot of good ones. I would say they don't get as much interest as the .ais, but anything AI garners interest right now, even in extensions other than .com and .ai. That's how hot it is. So, um, you know, it's definitely a wave to be ridden, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the .ai extension.
Yeah, have you ever seen Martin Short do the Jiminy Glick, his character Jiminy Glick?
No.
Anyway, he really he lean in and really ask the celebrities questions. Like, anyway, I'm making you're too paid. Anyway, he's just like rude, but he's funny, and he's eating donuts like a wild man. But I feel like that's why I want to act like when I'm asking you. Well, tell us about Discover AI. Well, how did you get that one? That wasn't a hand reg. That's so good, such a name. When you said it, I got a little nervous. But Discover AI. When did you pick that up, Josh? And like, can you tell us what you spent? But I mean, that's a
Uh,
great name. How did you get that?
Bought it earlier this year from, I believe, the original Registrar, and just to like give you an idea of like when these really top terms were getting registered, it was registered in 2007, and it was at Network Solutions when I bought it. But this same seller owned a bunch of them: startai.com, exploreai.com, discoverai.com, I think joinai.com, maybe a few others. Um, and I bought them all from him. I think on average I paid about maybe like 3,500 each, $4,000 each on them. Um, but yeah, goes to show. I mean, this guy literally registered them in 2007. 2007. We weren't even like, we weren't even dreaming about AI then.
Siger just texted me and said, "Do you want to trade him for discoverbainbridgeisland.com?" That's an actual place. He said AI is just, it's like in the air. It really doesn't mean much.
Right.
Okay, so hey, there was something I was gonna say, but I'm in shock now. Oh, that you got some great ones. Oh, yeah, I was gonna mention about why I'm a good domain investor. Well, I I have sold it, $2.5 million worth of names, but all my names have all been either hand reg or less than $150 I've ever spent on them. So
Mm.
I bring that up because it's fucking hard to do in itself. I just had to find something as I was running the other day. I'm lying now. I wasn't running. I was walking my dogs. They were making me run. But I was thinking, geez, we all invest differently. It is difficult, because I know a lot of guys would never, ever just to count on hand-regging names. Arif is the close. He spends most of his time just in closeouts, spending less than $100. And the you really can, then you make very, a small percentage or a small sell-through rate for, averaging, and I use Arif's number, say like 4,000. Let me give you an example. I have 1,000 names. I sell 1%. If I did, that's 10 names. You sell them for 40,000, um, you know, after the commissions. Let's say I think I did it before, but anyway, it's about 31, 32 grand. I just said it's 1,000 names. They're all .com. So let's say I spend 11,000 in a year on renewals. You can see you're making about 20 grand, and it's really, I would say nothing to write home about, but you're doing better than 95% of domainers. That's why I see when Arif speaks, how he scales up from 1,500 to 2,000, 3,500, 4,000. Try to scale up exactly what you're doing, and at that same time he's increased his um, average sale price, but then also you try to squeeze an extra 0.5% more in a sell-through rate. But I mean, it's not an easy business to be in. And Josh, you're saying, earlier this year spent, buying that portfolio, spending on between 3 and 4 grand per name. A lot of folks are trying to do exactly that. Some simply, aren't doing it. And there's so many different ways to, like they say, skin the cat, which is probably you're not supposed to say anymore. Skin the cat is you're a domain investor. But I was thinking to myself, yeah, um, I am proud that I haven't, although I've had limited sales, that I haven't had a big outlay of cash for domain names. Otherwise, I really feel like I was upside down. Uh, I wanted to get to anybody wants to chime in on LTOs or any of the topics. We got tons of topics. Would love to hear from some of you. I can see some people I wouldn't want to hear from. I sure hope that's not. Oh, Paige, that's a good one. Okay, so come on up. But yeah, there's some people I'm thinking, no, you can. Okay, so before we get on to the next topic, let me welcome Paige. Paige, it's nice seeing you. How's everything going?
It's going great. Hope everyone's well. Just love talking domaining. Thanks, Josh, for sharing your real world scenario. I guess it reminds me, as if domaining weren't tough enough, an outsider could look at the industry and they could look at Domain Chain every day and they could see what stuff sold for on GoDaddy and go, okay, that's where you buy. And then you look on Twitter, oh, that's where the sales are. Oh man, this is awesome. This is easy, And Josh's comment reminded me that most of the time when you're buying, and I'm going to put words in Josh's mouth, but I think he'd agree, to wrestle that name from the person, you kind of have to overpay a little bit. I mean, everybody, it would be great if everyone would sell us stuff at a discount, you know what I mean? But you have to, you got to be committed to it. And that may even feel like overpaying to put yourself in a situation to when the market comes your way, then, you could either wait for the retail sale, but it's almost like the spread that exists for domains, I think, is a lot different than people think. They always see the cheapest you can buy for and the most you can sell for. But to really get something, usually you have to overpay. You have to outbid a lot of other people. And when you see Domain Chain, I love how he puts the results of the auctions, but it doesn't mean you could have got those names for that price because you don't know how much higher that winner would have gone. So one of the things, I don't think we've talked about Domora here, but the free name's coming out with fractionalization. And one of the things we're trying to do there is to let people get pieces of these bigger names because they are so hard to get, maybe. And if the only option people have is to ANREG or go way down the food chain, to be able to spend $100 or $300, when I think the risk reward in some of these bigger names, I mean, we could all say we do what Josh did, right? Josh, we all say, oh, yeah, I would have done that. But I don't know if everybody would have done that, when you did it. So I say kudos for when you did it. But the risk reward of better domain investing is a nice place to be. And maybe fractionalization will help when you don't have the money it takes to gobble up names 100%. So thanks for the vine.
Josh doesn't need to say anything because you spoke for him, so that was good. No,
Uh,
Paige, tell
well,
me,
well summarized, Paige.
yeah, Paige, tell me what names are you going to tokenize on Domora that I can get a piece of? Reason I say that is because I know you're not only familiar with the platform. I was thinking about what sellers, domain investors may put some names up there early on. So tell us a little bit about Domora and what you may utilize it for as a seller side.
Yeah, I think that I'm still trying to figure out what's going to fit best. I know that we're working with a number of brokers right now to take names that they represent, and if they haven't been able to outbound them, they haven't been able to find that perfect buyer, to be able to offer their client, a pathway to some liquidity that they participate in. And so that's the high end, and those are names beyond what I own. One word .coms, 3 to 8 letters. And so that'll be one place. And then the other place will be, I think, people that buy like AI. If I could do my scavenger thing and find a one word AI that's maybe taken in 20 extensions. And it's hard to get out of a name wholesale sometimes. I mean, you think, oh, I could list it and someone will pick it up by looking on DNX, .ai, number of extensions registered, low to high, and then see your price. But on the other way to do it would be to float the shares at what I consider to be a wholesale price. So anywhere in between those two things, either selling 80 to 100% of a name that I bought right at wholesale, where wholesale exiting at wholesale is a profit for me, and maybe by fractionalizing it, I can exit at 150% of wholesale. Because more people that couldn't afford to pay 1, 2, 3, 4,000, they might pay 100 or 200. So that would be the high and the low, and then everything in between.
Look forward to the price discovery that's going to happen for sellers, because we're going to, I'm going to do it. I'm going to look right on there and say, okay, I'm putting this on there. I like the idea of, I don't know how it's going to work. Paige, you could tell me one thing real fast is, will people be able to, can I put a name without a price and someone can make an offer to buy 10% of it at a certain price?
The way it is right now, and this is hypothetical. No offering is being made to sell or offer any security. Yada yada yada. We're just showing some indications of what we may do. Is that the owner of the name picks a certain amount that they do what's called a DPO. So they'd say, well, I'm going to sell 20% of the name for this price. And then those shares would be, in essence, fractionalized, and the owner may still own a certain percent of it. And when they do that, they set a buy it now for a retail buyer to come in and buy the whole asset at any time. And the second way to do it is, instead of putting a buy it now, you can actually say, let the market decide if somebody wants to buy the whole name, and it'll be based upon the 10-day average of the pricing. So I know I went through a bunch of stuff there, but we're trying to build in flexibility. There'll be a lot of names on there. I love how you use the word price discovery. It's kind of like the market will go to where willing buyers meet willing sellers. And that doesn't mean there won't be stuff too high and there won't be stuff too low, right? But the market finds, especially in decentralized Web3, the market finds where they interact. So, yeah, it should be interesting. They're going to launch it at Domain Days, Dubai.
Great. That's the month away.
I have a question. Is the like the share portion of the platform, is that hidden from end users? Is it only going to be available to like certified or whatever, like confirmed domain investors? Or because like that way, if not, then a potential buyer could come and say, okay, offer like 20% higher, 30% higher for the 20% in shares, and then buy the domain outright afterwards. Right? Is that something to look into?
You're really perceptive, RF, on what would happen there, but the seller would have chosen whether they want to go that path. It's kind of like a greater than. So you're not married to that path. You choose if you want the 10-day average or if you want to have a fixed buy it now. Like say I buy a city domain name for, maybe a city of 20,000 people and I buy it for $4,000 and I sell some shares at $8,000 and I put a buy it now of 20. Then that buy it now of 20 is what rules the roost, not the trading price. So
Okay, but then I was saying like the person who invested at 20%,
right.
they would have the option of just taking their 20% off the market type of thing, and then that would be hidden. That with they would get the full price at the retail price if somebody comes around.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
it's
like
kind of like someone doing a takeover on the New York Stock Exchange, right? They can start buying up shares of a company that they're going to make a tender offer for, and then of course, knowing degens, oh my gosh, this one fractionalization is really moving today. Somebody must know something. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But you choose when you list the parameters. We don't know what the best ones are going to be. It's just the ability to give people the choice of options. Um, I was even thinking this morning I might list every name I own. Uh, Follow me on this. Would I sell 5% of any name I own for my retail buy it now right now? I talked myself into I would. So anyway,
Paige, I'm laughing because I could see you driving around in your car listening to music and thinking, I'm gonna do it. God damn it, I'm gonna do it. Then you get home, it's late at night after dinner. You're like, put on the coffee, babe. I'm staying up all night. Yeah, this is happening.
well,
And
then I got to call Big, and he has to give me that Bo Jackson. No, no.
um, I like well, I knew I like that first option that you said, that the person sells off a certain percent, but there's still always going to be that all of us domain investors are like, yeah, but what can we buy it for? Well, if the price is right, he's going to get the seller's going to get somebody to say, I will take 20% of it. You explained it very well. I bought 20% at this 8,000 valuation and the price is 20,000. I bought it at 4,000. You said 3 or 4,000 valuation, and that the retail is going to be 20. So then I always think, the seller thinks the reason I'm selling 20% at this wholesale price or this under market price is because I want to get a little bit of money off the table, and I'm still got a lot of skin in the game, in that case 80%. So when it sells for retail, I'm still going to make out, but in the meantime, I don't like to have anybody to have to explain to. In the meantime, I wanted the money, I needed the money, I took the money. Don't worry about it. In the meantime, I wanted to take some money off the table and let my buddy sitting next to me ride along with me as the dice are rolling. So I like the idea, and I like the truth of the matter is that is different than some of the things that you've known in the past, of other people that have fractionalized, is this is truly peer to peer. And Ish brought this up. I wouldn't say brilliantly, but smartly he brought it up the other day. Is peer to peer means everything with regards to these loans, with regards to somebody wanting to buy into a certain percentage if they feel the price is right. Well, Josh, I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. I think there really is something there, and I can't wait to sit back and watch and then participate. What's your thoughts when you think of buying in 20% at a low, at a wholesale price? Do you either want in all, or do you like the fractionalizing, of a name?
Um, yeah, I don't like fractionalization, to be honest. I'm not a fan. Um, I think I've talked about this a little bit already. I guess I just don't see domains currently that way. So, you know, I respect a lot of people that see things differently. But yeah, I feel like we've talked about this, or I've certainly talked about this quite a bit in the past and gone into a little bit of detail as to why I think that it's a challenge. And yeah, I just don't see it.
Yeah, and we're going to have to see, the ease of use on the platform and how you see your ownership and how you can even liquidate your shares. There's a lot to it. But Arif, what comment or question did you have about it?
I agree with Josh for the most part. I think it can get complicated. However, I think the one place where it does make sense, like, I've been saying recently, I've been buying a few domains at auction, right? And like oftentimes I go, oh, like when I hear Josh talk a lot.
What?
Right?
What?
Yeah. I'm a 3-figure guy now, man. But yeah, no, but the thing is, like, sometimes I'll I hear Josh talk in the rooms and whatever. It's like, oh, Josh is probably going to be in that one too. So I think if you find yourself somebody else in the industry, you're often competing as the last two bidders on several auctions. I think in that case, yes, I think it does make sense, obviously, because you're going to actually lower your acquisition costs. So in that one sense, it makes sense. But actually, Paige had a couple questions for the Jumeirah thing. Like, I'm guessing
Well, we can do it on a Domora show. We don't have to do it on
just
this
general
show.
questions. Like,
I just wanted to bring it up.
but
Okay.
just a general question. Like, I mean, it applies
That's
probably
fine.
all platforms that do it. Like, I'm guessing the domain now, it's married to the registrar itself, right? But then the question becomes, is that person who buys 20%, are they responsible for 20% of the renewal fee? Or is it like assumed that the 80% will just cover the costs? Or
Yeah, in this case, because free name is a registrar, the name is moved to free name. So they have to renew it for either 3 or 5 years when they start, and then they always have to have. I'm not sure the exact details, but there's like a rolling. There's like a rolling.
So 3 years ahead,
Something
you have to
rather.
do one more year.
Yeah.
But who is it? Is it the person who owns the majority of the domain that pays for it, or is it like fractional as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, this is all. And we've been able to watch a lot of them. Like, I just had an asset bought out on Rally Road. Last year I had bought $100 of 3 different apes when Ethereum was trading at like 1,500, you know what I mean? And so I was like, oh great, I'm in the money, you know what I mean? It's going great. And then one of them just sold yesterday, and it sold pretty much for what I bought it for, and it was manipulated. Someone went into Rally Road and they sold really small amounts of units, like 1, 2, or 3. And Todd, you'll remember this from the stock market. So they basically depressed the price, and then they made an offer that looked like it was way above the current price. You know what I mean? And so, there's been some efforts before to do it, and you got to watch out. But I will say that for people that aren't in the domaining industry, for people that are outside the industry, they don't think they'll ever have a chance to buy some of these names that we talk about. So we'll see if that brings some awareness to the whole industry, because I think once people start buying shares in domain names, they'll be, I think, potentially more likely to be owners of all of domain names. But we'll see.
And we won't beat it up today, but the whole thing is, Paige, who's bringing the single word .com? I'm something that we all 100 people in here, even the ones that don't know domain investing, would go, yeah, that's a good one. Meaning, soon as there's something like that hits the board that's available for that's why the mj.com at Rally Road, there's folks that felt like, hey, we all agree that's a premium name. Now it's just going to be valuation. And some people felt like, hey, okay, I think it's worth a few million. So at a million.
Yeah, but I mean, you can go into Nordstrom's and they can have a suit there, and you're like, I love that suit. And they're like, it's $4,500, and you're like, it's a great suit. But what do you? So I think sometimes it'll be pay high. Sometimes it'll be get discounted names for discounted prices, and then we'll have no shortage of sellers who would sell their name for full retail, and we have no shortage of buyers that'll be like, I heard that I could buy names for 1% of their value, right? And I think you said it right at the beginning. We'll have discovery where there's action, but maybe it will be nice to add to the data sets that we have some a couple premium one-word names and what their price is going up or down. You know what I mean? I'm looking at my house, say home.com was trading at a 13, or that already sold. So maybe house.com, say house.com was trading at a $750,000 valuation. And all of a sudden in a course of a month, it went up to 900 and then it went down to 600, or, it may be interesting to pull some data from where stuff trades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think talking to Marcus from Free Name, one thing he explained was there's something called the DPO, the domain price and offer. So I think that is what's going to determine if it's a worthwhile investment for end users, right? So if like just like Josh, I'm not a big fan of fractionalization, but if there's an opportunity to get in on a ground floor where I feel like in my assessment there's potential upside, then it's definitely more attractive. So if a name that I perceive might be worth $1 million is being offered, or a portion of it has been offered for, let's say, 100 grand, I would get in and try to ride that upside. And maybe other people will try to replace my positioning in that offer. So I think the DPO, as you guys phrase it, is a crucial part of adoption and the success of the of this tokenization effort.
yeah, the domain public offering. So,
Public offering. Tech.
Josh, yeah,
But back to Josh's point, I think that this is definitely a derivative. What we're doing. We're trying to make an entry level. There's a generation of investors that think they've been cut out of stocks, homes, everything. And this is for that market. I'm encouraging us to not do a lot of domainer marketing for buying. You know what I mean? Domainers already know everything. But it is a way, we lost people over the past 20 years. There are not as many people wanting to buy domain names, in my opinion, either as investors or as end users, as there was 20 years ago. But I think, what Josh explained, me trying to convince Josh to do fractionalization would be like someone trying to convince me to go vegan. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, hey, why don't we just go to a food court and you have what you want and I'll have what we want and we can hang out together, I mean, I just think that there'll always be this insider or industry of owning the entire name, the real domaining, for lack of a better word. And then this will be something different. So
Yeah, I'm curious to how it works out, because to me it only makes sense in obviously the higher end domains, because like if you have to pay like 3 years up front, like a $200 wholesale domain, it wouldn't really make much sense because you're selling 20% of it, you're getting $40, then you got to pay 33 in renewals for 3 years up front. Are there going to be like portfolio level stuff, or like it's just
well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to design it for that use case, but but what's the buyer going to do though? Or if he's going to say, "Oh, I hope the guy remembers to renew the name next year."
Oh, I
so
agree.
we got to do something.
Yeah, that's thing. There's complications. I'm just like, because it's like for lower end domains, it would make sense for the renewal to be fractionalized, but then
if we lose that, if we lose out on that lister, if we lose out on the lister that can't afford the $33 to enter into the game, then that's okay. That's me speaking, not Jumeirah.
It's not really they can't afford. It's just that like if you're going for liquidity, you know what I mean. I mean it makes sense for higher domains, obviously. Like the renewals become a rounding error at a certain point. But I'm just curious because like I mean for me I'm like I want to try that to see how it works. Obviously, especially at the beginning, there's going to be a wave of people investing that you might get some spikes in value and take advantage of that, right? But again, like if most of my stuff is bread and butter stuff. It's obviously anybody buying in has got to get the wholesale price, or as you said, close to it. I think in an ideal world, if you can get like 150 of what your previously considered wholesale is, that's going to be a big advantage, right? But again, if you're having mostly wholesale domains in the lower three figures, then it's going to be difficult to actually get some liquidity.
I don't think it's a fit for. I don't think it's a fit for low three-figure names.
Yeah, we won't meet that use case. Yeah, we can just move on from that. Yeah.
But there's that gentleman that was at your event ish who has techno.com. You need somebody that has a name that's worth something, that's and not in, if he's listening, Gar, Gare, I forget his name.
Gal.
Gal. Sorry. Well, you got to be somebody a little desperate for money. I was going to say to Josh, um, when you don't sell anything for the next 3 years, you're going to be desperate to. No, I was going to say it about DNA.com. Okay, Drew Rosner's not desperate for dough, but if he had a name, if it was an owner of a name like DNA.com and said, "Hey, listen, I think that my name's worth 2 million, 3 million, $5 million," but I'm basically right now there's nobody that's made any serious offers for it. So we're in between times. I've had serious offers. Right now I don't have any, but anyway, I don't want to sell this name fucking for nothing. So would you be interested in buying 20% of it or say 50%? But if you said, Josh, would you be interested in buying 20% of DNA for 100 grand? So that means it's a $500,000 valuation. Is that the kind of thing that would make sense only if somebody has a great name like that, willing to sell off a percent, 20% because they need some capital, but yet they don't want to get out of the name completely? Does that make sense buying 20% of a name?
Yeah, but I think that people are overestimating what that market actually, like how large that market is, and whether like and how applicable that is to at scale. There are very, very, very few people with names of that caliber that either want or need to sell off a portion of their of that domain. These names that are not owned by companies, they're they're only going into uh, they're going to very few places, and it's a very select few people, and they don't need money. They don't need to fractionalize their names. So yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, and we're going to finish with this segment right now, but I agree. That's the thing. You have big names, somebody who's like, listen, I need some capital. I don't want to get out of my name completely. So I want to sell off part of it. So we're going to see, and I know some folks who have some great names who've reached out to me because of domain fund saying, hey, we would like to still own a part of the name, but need a little bit of money. But there's very few premium name with someone who's willing to offer part of it at a wholesale price or a way under retail price. So we're going to see, but no, interesting. Hey, Josh, about those $4 registrations at UD, I guess that was even less than 24 hours this last time because they're hitting their quotas or their caps or something like that. But you mentioned a couple weeks ago you bought 4,000 names at somebody, I think it may be at Namebright. You bought them somewhere. Where did you buy those 4,000 a few weeks ago, and what have you done since then, with these registration specials?
Yeah, I bought them at Namebright when they were doing a 6.99 promo. I bought 1,500 names from Unstoppable when they did the $4 promo. Helped them out, helped them figure out some of their uh, bulk management uh, protocols. And yeah, you know, like what I'm willing to register at $11 is different than what I'm willing to register at $7, and what I'm willing to register at $4 is different to what I'm willing to register at $7. So, um,
Well, hold on. What do you mean by that? You mean you're just willing to go a little more speculative or
yeah, I
speculative? But
mean, like,
anyway,
listen, I mean, I can register 1,500.coms for at $4 each, and you know, it's what is it, 5 grand, 5.5 grand,
Six
uh,
grand, yeah.
6 grand. I mean, honestly, worst case scenario, I sell zero and I lose 6 grand. Um, I don't think
So
that
my question to you is like, of those, what percentage do you think you'll be renewing at regular renewals at the end of the year?
depends how many. Depends how many I sell.
Okay, good answer.
Um, I'll have a look at I'll have a look at the stats on those names as well. If I sell 0, probably won't renew any of them. But I'm not going to sell 0. So I already know I'm not going to sell 0. So yeah, I mean, like, listen, $4.coms, I haven't seen that for 10 years. So yeah, I think that's an opportunity.
I'm a food guy. I mean, plus the only way to tell if a name's going to sell sometimes is to own the name, right? I mean, you could say, I wonder if it'll sell. You can say it might sell, but the only way to truly know, right, is to own the name. So the ability to get that information and that data and to check your picker, your chooser, at that price point, I'm with you, because you'll know, right? I mean, you're not going to wonder at the end of a year how this did, like, I wonder if I would have, like if it was like fantasy stock investing, right? It's real investing, and you'll know, and just finding out inquiries and sales. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've done it a couple of times, probably do it again. And it's again, the only way to know if a name's going to sell is to own the name
Yeah, and I would say,
at a
like, the
certain
only
price.
way to really know if if you have like an edge and you know what you're doing is by like doing something at scale. Like, scale is such an important part of this, like, low cost domaining strategy, because if I register 100 of them, they might be good registrations, but I might just get unlucky and not sell any in the first year. But if I register 1,000, and they're decent names for the current climate, I will sell some, as long as I'm not pricing them ridiculously. So scale is an important thing when you're testing these things, and I'm just kind of interested at the moment in this lower. I honestly, what I'm most interested in right now is just like what the difference is between a hand registration and something that you would acquire in like a closeout or drop scenario. Um, I'm not convinced that there's much of a difference. In fact, I think there might not be any difference at all. But I can only know that if I test it at scale.
Yeah, and I think the caveat with that is, I think with your experience and the way you've done your research over the years, the experience you've gained, I think you're probably one of the best suited to do something like this, right? What keywords work with which other keywords, and I think what you said about scale is also really important. That's the most dangerous thing, I think, when people come into the industry, is that you, unfortunately, somebody new with a low number of domains, you just don't know, right? Because it's luck. It could be good luck or it could be bad luck. But until you have volume, you don't, and that luck sort of turns into more of a law of averages type of effect. You just don't know, right? But then you don't want to buy too much until you know. So it's like you kind of you're stuck in a loop where it's like, okay, you don't want to buy much until you know, and otherwise, like, and for you, the 1,500 domains, how long did it take you to put that list together?
Not as long as you would think.
But you already had your preset, like, first word and preset second word, and you put them together and had some kind of list that you generated that way, I'm guessing.
One of 2 words is always preset. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what I figured. And again, like, there's very few people who I would say are at their level of knowing what those words really truly are. I mean, obviously, if you go back and listen to the last 2 years, if those of you down below, go listen to Josh for the last 2 years. Like, when he said the 4,000 domains, like, I already know what they are. Like, I don't know exactly what they are, but like, I have a pretty good idea of what words he matches with what words, just based on what he's shared for the last 2 years. So it's like, I'm really curious how this experiment is going to turn out, because it's something I would explore myself as well at some point.
Yeah, I'm very curious as well. And it's nice to be able to do these experiments with the promos that we're seeing. I don't know. I haven't really paid. I'll be honest. Over the last like 4 or 5 years, I have paid zero attention to hand registering. I literally have not done it. Zero, for the most part. But it seems to me like there's this year more than ever has just been like a lot of registrars trying to acquire market share, and thus we're seeing some pretty good opportunities for unlimited hand registrations in that kind of like $5 range, which is cool.
So I'll go full degen on you guys. I'm registering back some names I dropped. So we'll see if I was right, wrong, or right twice or wrong
Oh
twice.
man,
But
Paige, I love you so much, man. There's
it's
nothing you
complicated
don't
up
do in
here,
this
man.
industry.
It's crowded. It's crowded up here. So Todd, I'm on the couch, man. Talk me off the edge. I didn't like it. I made the decision to cut it. No one else liked it in the expiry. No one else liked it at the drop. But man, I still know that name's gonna work. I gotta get it back.
But here's the thing,
Talk
like
me off
at
the
$4, it's a different calculation, right? Like as Josh said, like it's not they're not names you might have bought at $11, but at $4, hey, it makes sense. It costs you a third or almost a third of what it would otherwise cost you, right? So if you only get half the sell-through rate as your regular ones, you're still winning, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing at $4 or $5 sometimes, depending on the math.
Yeah, renewing is a different animal completely, right? But we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there.
Okay, we're going to go to Bradley in just a second. Bradley, thanks for being patient. But if you asked Josh exactly what I had written down about, how are you putting together these lists, and we all assume, some of us that have been doing it for a long time. I've done it where you got your word over here in the second column, and then you want to have all these other 500 words with that word, and then you see what's available, and some of those might not make sense, but most of them should, and then you go from there. But
Yeah.
before I get to Bradley, I wanted to ask, hold on, ask Josh, were any of the ones you buying acronyms, like just a few letters, 2 or 3 letters with those words?
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
I've tested. I'm testing everything, like everything. You know, some things you go to test and you realize that um, it's already you can't even test it because it's been mined so hard, so it must be successful. Or like there's already a lot of usage out there, so you're like, oh wow, like this is already a thing. Um, so um, you definitely learn. You definitely learn a lot in the process. So regardless of the results, I will certainly know a lot more about like what's hot and what's not from like a usage and standpoint as well. Um, yeah, for the most part, what I've found is that what I thought were what I believe to be the right type of names to hand register, uh, some like big industry players like huge domains seem to agree. Um, so, I feel like although I'm experimenting, I'm pretty confident in the experiment.
Great. I got some comments, but Bradley, feel free. The stage is yours. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Josh, and Paige, and Arif, and everyone who's contributed. There's a thing that, from my own experience in the fine art world, when you put up an object for sale, particularly in an auction scenario, and this I think is for Paige and whatever you're doing with the fractionalization and even the auction. It's important to have an end buyer already in place. You can't, in the very beginning, like when a new artist is going to be, on the Star Trek syndrome, they don't just have the work and all of a sudden people want it. It's a cultured, curated thing that is built over years, and they have buyers already in place to gradually increase its valuation. It's not a kind of spontaneous thing. You know what I mean? And so my suggestion is you need to have some, an already complete scenario in the playbook and get some things moving by already having the funding beforehand.
Fantastic. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so everybody had a chance to get a cup of coffee. Who just talked there? I didn't catch. Oh, was that Paige? Kind of different. Hey, Paige, I thought your comment was really unusual, or it was surprising to me, and that was that you think there's less domain buyers than there were end users and domain investors than there were 20 years ago. I'm thinking, to me, it was obvious that it's the opposite. I think that's how I feel, and there's more domain investors than ever before, but they're going to all extensions, so we're not seeing the numbers in .com because .coms actually are dropping, the registrations waning a little bit. So I was surprised to hear that from you. But then also, Josh, I'd like to know when you do sell out of these batches that you've bought, I think it'll be important to go in and see that name sold. Had it ever been registered before? Because you're registering these, but it makes me feel like when you register 4,000, you register 1,500, that there's probably dozens in there that had been registered before, but they're available again. Just like Paige said, he drops names. I've done it too, and you like go back in, so you know it was registered before because it was registered by yourself. But so, Josh, I think that's maybe if you sell one or two out of that 1,500 batch in this first 6 months, might want to just check if we could go the way back or something to know, was that in fact a name that was registered before, even though you hand registered it? Because I think when names are off the market for several years, it does, finally when a buyer revisits it and sees maybe now that it's priced,
Yeah, I mean,
that they may go for it.
everything basically was registered before. It's more about a question of how long before I registered it was it registered previously. Does that make sense?
Okay, so there's no way Zerk followed that. Zerk just he was like, cuckoo, what, his eyes crossed. So
Like
Zerk, I know you're sitting
how
there.
long has it been available? Has it been available for 10 days? Has it been available for 100 days? Has it been available for 5 years? That's more what I'm interested in finding out.
Yeah, because it's certainly the height of myopia to say for 10 years no one's wanted to register this name and it's been available, but now that I own it, oh my gosh. Except I will say this, here's my caveat. The theory was that there's more money to be made in commissions on aftermarket sales than hand regis. And in my perfect world of domaining, there would be better price discovery for already owned names by technology providers, not dominated by GoDaddy, but there would be innovation and fresh uses. So that Josh, you could have a name that when it was a hand reg, it wasn't worth it for companies to guide a buyer to that name. Not one that already knew they wanted it, but guiding a buyer to that name. And the theory should be that with a $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 transaction, and the commission on that should encourage technologies to help find the right buyers for those names. There's no money on reselling a hand reg, right? The days of, we're going to sell SSLs and all that crap, that's over. So that's the only other thing that I would love to see us get to, is where, because the compensation, the commission to a provider, a referral link, an affiliate link is higher on a premium name, that there could be situations where a name could go unregistered because no one thought of it. But if we got better at providing discovery for end users, I think we could, us being the aftermarket, we are the distribution channel for premium domains. We're just like retail stores that buy an asset and hold it on their shelves to sell to the customer. And that's why I keep hoping we'll have better discovery out there to bring buyers to the name that's best for them.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh,
I'll say one thing on that topic. I would love to see I would love to see some marketplace embrace new GTLDs in a way that brought a little bit of attention to good new GTLDs that span the dot. I feel like those would do well with the correct marketing strategy. Like, for example, I feel like an Atom, if they were able to showcase, some of these good new GTLDs that span the dot excellently, I definitely feel like they have buyers for those type of names that are just unaware that they exist.
Well, I thought that's what Sapphire would be. I mean, I've got over 6,000 names approved for Sapphire, and I haven't had a sale. Well, I don't know if I'd know if
Is
a sale happened.
Sapphire not like mostly CCTLDs though, like IO and AI?
I think it's all non ones that they accept on their premium platform. So I have I won't even tell you what I have, but I have some LTLDs, but I also have um, uh, new GTLDs on there too.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I specifically brought it up is I added some new GTLDs, some very good ones, and not that I believe are good ones anyway. And it seemed like they were just. I'm pretty sure I got an error message that just said Atom doesn't accept this TLD. Well, that's not very useful.
As a premium.
Well, is premium and Sapphire like not a similar thing?
Yeah, Sapphire is. So I submit my names like .las, my .cfds, my .rodeos, and they get picked up and as standard listings. I don't submit them as premium, the full on hyper marketed, and I submit them as standard, the 7.5%. And then they automatically, I think, get submitted to whether the number of TLDs registered times kind of a rolling scale. You know what I mean? It's like the better the TLD, the lower number of TLDs registered you have to be to get on Sapphire. So I may have some .tvs that are taken in 100 extensions and they'll get approved, but my .ws's I need to be 200 extensions or something like that. But they're not premium. Yeah, they're not premium. Sapphire is for standard, but I just don't feel it was supposed to do exactly what you said. Somebody wants the word rose or I don't know, unicorn, and they want to find that single word. You know what I mean? But when I talk to them, I'm always frustrated when I talk to them, but I was like, can you have a way on the front page where people can say, I typed in this search word, crypto, and I only want domains that have this word and only this word in it. And they were like, that'd be interesting because if you type in crypto now, they automatically go to their AI tool, which is going to bring back the 2 and 3 word.coms or the brandables having to do with crypto. So, yeah, I hope someone does do what you say.
Sounds like it would just be the exact thing like you do at DNX. Josh, I want to ask about the auctions that you're going to do. Matter of fact, I'll just do it now. I had so much stuff on my mind. Oh, yeah, we're going to go for another 30 minutes. So, there's usually people that want to come up and make comments. I think it's, been a great conversation today. Some people usually come up like 10 minutes before we shut down and say, yeah, and I wanted to ask earlier about, come on now. We got plenty of time. We're all kicked back. We're going to be doing this for 30 more minutes. Thanks for joining us today. But Josh, I'm interested. This is me personally. Yeah, so this DNX.com website, you say you're going to have an auction in the fourth quarter. And I was wondering, so what's the status of that? When do you start accepting submissions? And what's up?
Yeah, just building out some of the back end stuff for that. Should be done very soon. I was hoping it would be done by now, but I just not trying to rush it. So yeah, the idea is that we'll have a curated auction every quarter, and we'll take submissions before the event, and you know, get everything in order for a an auction that will probably last, I don't know, 2 weeks ish. Still ironing out some of the details, but that I'll be sure to communicate that as soon as it happens. There's a bunch of other stuff I'm trying to release well, or get out the door at the same time. So just prioritization. But yeah, that one's high up on the list, and it will be happening. Uh, just a question of how soon, but I'll definitely keep you updated.
Okay, one last thing. So, is that going to be just an online auction? But you may, I mean, of course, here we'll, say promote and talk about some of the names, but the bidding will be just online. Nothing that was like a thing like Monty does, where you can have a little bit of live activity and online activity.
Yeah, it will
What do you
just be
think?
online. The platform will be live when for those 2 weeks, and then it will go and default back into a submission. Essentially, like a very cool looking submission kind of page with a disclosure on when the next auction event would be. So, yeah, we'll probably look to do about 4 of those per year. Just keep it highly curated.
That's cool. Well, speaking of Monty, I think you saw I invited Monty and Scott. I think they want to come on, and I mean, I'd like for them to promote the NamesCon auction, but they're doing one at Dubai. They're doing one online with GMB, but we love domain auctions, so we'll see if I can lock that in for they can come in for maybe a half hour to an hour next Thursday and tell us what's going on. What are some great names that are going to be in the NamesCon auction? It is fun to have a live auction and that they do online. But then, uh, still, I know submissions are open, so you guys can learn directly from Monty. How long do you lock up my name? When do I get paid? How come if I want to do it? But it is fun. I've sold names way back 20 years ago in some of his live auctions. I absolutely love it. Go
Yeah, I'm
ahead.
not sure what Monty's terms exactly are, but generally, like when these kind of auctions, and I think with him is you 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 know he needs time to promote the name beforehand, so you have to sign some sort of exclusive agreement that runs, I don't know, for a certain amount of time before the auction, and then obviously they try to close sales after the auction as well. So there's a certain amount of time where you're still under contract after the auction. Um, yeah, and I
I
guess
think
that time frame typically varies from broker to broker. I'm not sure what it is with Monty, but that's definitely the general gist.
I
I
seem to
remember.
recall it being 6 months.
Sorry.
I'm not 100% sure. I seem to recall it being 6 months though from Monty's, I think.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah. In some cases, I because he'll say, Todd, don't say that. And then he'll tell me too, if he's listening to this, because I think sometimes he's went down to 90 days. If depends on if you're, what is it, a premium name, or you giving him a fantastic reserve price? He thinks he can move it. But yeah, he needs normally, you guys said it's 6 months to say, hey, I'm going to promote it. If something happens afterwards, I want to get paid for that. And then, basically that's just how it goes
DNX one
down.
will be somewhat similar. I think ours is probably just going to be 30 days before and 30 days after the auction. And I mean, we have a pretty big list now of users uh, through DNX. So, it's over, I don't know,
That's
four
cool.
4,000 ish. So, um, you know, we'll we'll be promoting those auctions as well.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I'm going to submit and I plan on buying. And that's probably fabulous. Still haven't bought one on DNX, but yeah, I mean, I use the tool like it's mine. All right, Ragu, what is, nice to have you here. Hope everything's going great with you today. What's your comment or question?
Hey, again, I came late, so I probably missed half of the most of the conversation I missed. But it's probably answered before, but I didn't get it. So I want to ask Josh. Hi, Josh. How you doing?
What's up, Ragu? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Uh, Josh, if you don't have to, like, I'm sure you got this question before too, and you respectfully, yes, you don't have to answer it. But I wonder, you know, 4,000 domains, 1,500 domains you're buying and spending money. All good, and wish you all the best. But you know, what is the secret behind it? So we are already following you and trying to learn from you. Is like, imagine if I want to take 1,000 domain names, am I taking it on a one single keyword of this 1,000 domains, or I'm desertifying it like all over the place? Like, what is your idea, or just a hint of names you got? So
Yeah.
just try to understand. Like, you don't have to tell us the keywords or anything like that.
Well,
I understand.
so I
Yeah.
don't, or I do have to tell you.
Sorry.
Do I have to tell you the keywords, or do I not have to tell you the
No, no, no,
keywords?
you don't. It's up, like, you can make me Raghu is a keyword. So I just want to understand. Would I go with the 1,000 Raghu's names? I don't know. Like, I'm failed to understand, because I can come up with a keyword, and then I'll maybe work around with the 50, 100, or maybe 200 domains
Yeah,
to cover it up. I'm good at that too.
yeah.
But 4,000 names or 1,500 names,
I'll tell you.
are you doing that way? Yeah.
I'll
So I just want to understand the game. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
maybe something I can copy. Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah,
not a
yeah.
keyword though.
I can. I'll give you a little idea since you asked so nicely, Raghu. Um. So like, yeah, they would. If so I actually did register close to like 1,000 in one particular keyword at Unstoppable, and that was the keyword was finance. Um, and obviously their .com names, and the keyword was so it ended with finance.com. Um, and yeah, and then the first word could be something like ragu, right? It could be like ragufinance.com.
Ragu spaghetti sauce is the best one,
Yeah,
believe me.
exactly. So one of them might be ragufinance.com, and the other one might be brucefinance.com and ariffinance.com. And then before you know it, you got 1,000 of them.
Okay, but if I use AI, for example, right, and I'm reviewing it, right? Okay, I might like, if I make a list by hand or by my mind or by AI or any other sorts of making a list of this keyword and making of the domain name,
Mm.
and I'm going through this out of, maybe, if I let's say I use AI and I say, okay, give me 1,000 names with a Ragu keyword. Now I'm reviewing it. I might only like 200 names,
Yeah,
let's say, right?
correct.
But would you still register 1,000 names which is spit out for you?
No, nope,
Okay,
no,
so
absolutely
that is
not.
the key.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely
So how
not.
would you do
So
that?
from like the 1,000 or the
Hmm.
700 that I registered,
You boil down.
that was dwindled down from a list of closer to 50,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
And you were able to do this with a scan of your eye? I don't know.
no,
Like, I get tired, huh?
no, not with the scan of my
Okay.
eye. No,
So then how would you do it?
nah,
Like, 10,000 names. Come on, man. This is a real question,
I know,
because
well,
this is the real, I
I know.
want you to get there. I want to learn
You're
that.
digging deep, man. You're digging real deep.
Domainmagic.com.
No, 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 no. I am claiming, and Ishi is the witness. I want to be better than AI. Believe me. And
Yeah,
I'm a
I
very
don't. I
close.
don't
I'm very
use.
close.
I don't use AI in domain investing at all.
Right. So it's all us, right? And this is the beauty of yours, talent. This is what I appreciate, even though I don't know you much yet. Okay. But this is the beauty I like. The domaining for me is talent. And this is what I'm always hungry for, learning more talent. So therefore, I would love to know, how would you go through this and pick 1,000 names?
Yeah,
Which is, you mind will say, yes, I want this. But my mind goes up to 200, let's say, and I say, you know what? And money is not an object here. Okay. Money you can spend. That's not a problem.
yeah,
So, but how do you
yeah.
decide
I mean,
1,000 names?
listen. So, like, at $4, I'm less inclined to rely on my eyes. Um, but then at $7 or $10 or whatever, when I'm registering names, I do want to be a little bit more
Of
careful,
course.
right?
Yeah, and that's the reason I don't have money AI domains. $100 a pop for me, or $200 a pop for me. And I cannot produce. I can produce 500 AI domain names, but not that rich.
Yeah. You've got to like figure out some metrics around those names that make sense, right, for you based on what you think are a good name, right? You can use your eyes to identify what you believe are good names, and then you can add in, technology and tools to support that theory.
Yeah, because you know why I'm asking this? Not only for me, the past experience I had with a similar scenario, person like you, okay, back in early 2000. So this guy was keen about this .tv, and I think I told this story before, but I don't know if you heard me. So this guy in the UK somewhere got a keyword called directory, okay,
Mm,
and this guy gone, he bought 200,000, 200,000 directory names.
wow.
Something directory, something directory, something directory, something directory. Like he collected 200,000 directory names. And he was so crazy about this, he actually went to the registry. He said, block that keyword directory only for him. And they did it.
Mm,
Would you believe that? Right? So that means the guy was whatever he's trying to do. But I didn't see the results of this at all. So I just wanted to, like, as a
yeah.
big brother, you
Yeah, I
know,
mean, listen,
like,
the results are an important thing here as well, right? I mean, I know of some
buying
extreme.
it is easy, right?
Well, I
Buying
know,
is
I know
flipping
some
out by
very,
American
very,
Express.
I know some very, very, very successful domain investors that have, tens of thousands of names that I don't know, and I would say like these tens of thousands of names I would consider like lower value names, like stuff they've picked from the drops and closeouts and where most people get their lower value names, right? If they're not hand registering. And they've conducted similar tests in the past, and a lot of them have said that hand registering hasn't necessarily made doesn't necessarily work for them. But what works for one person doesn't mean it won't work for another. And I think that the only way to truly find out is to see those results yourself. And one thing that someone mentioned at some point on this call was that it's very, very hard to fully commit to what you're doing unless you've seen the results, unless you've seen the sales. And like,
So my
you
question to
can
you
hear
is,
about
do
them,
you,
and you can hear about them when you hear other
yeah,
people and other people's
yeah,
sales. It helps, but it's not the same as seeing them for
right. So
yourself.
do you have this previous experience with this?
I have enough experience and I have enough sales to be confident enough to put money into my theories. Yeah.
No, no, I'm not talking about the money part. I'm talking about similar idea.
Uh-huh.
What you're doing now? You had this idea before. Did you implement it? Did you exercise it before? And it worked for you.
Um,
The results.
I did it on a s-
This is
I
my
did
question.
it I did it on a small scale around this time last year.
Oh, you did,
Mm,
and it worked.
yeah.
Great, man. Congratulations. So this is what I want to. I'm conscious. I'm not only like with the people good like you. I just do a conscious thing. So means is saying it. Be careful. So that is good idea. Then that means you're approved from my end. Okay,
So,
done.
Raghu, like, I mean,
Mm,
for me, again, there's nothing surprising what he does. Obviously, Josh is probably one of the people who studies most of what like industries work. Like, he gave the example of finance, so he's probably got a lot of terms like that on the second word. And then if you listen to him in the last couple of years, he says some of the domains he sells, right? The first word, what types of words are more prevalent to selling. I think that what really I was going to ask, but he actually already answered. What really interests me is that to get those 1,500 names, I think Josh, you just said you had to generate about 50,000 domains to get 1,500 that were available. Is that about
yeah,
right?
that seems about right.
So,
Yeah.
so to me, that's like probably the best indication for me of the quality of domains. Only 3% were available. That for me, it's a really good sign. That means that of the random stuff you put together, it's not really random, right? Because 97% of them were already taken in demand by somebody. So, it doesn't mean they're all going to sell at investor retail pricing at $4,000 or $5,000, but it's still a really good indication of the actual demand. I think that's
Yes. Sorry to cut you off, but let me tell you, I usually give this challenge to the kids. I said, pick 10 names and give me the list. I'll check it for you if it's available. Guess what? 10 out of 10 are taken, right? So we understand all this, like 150 million domains out there, and I did it yesterday with the AI experiment. I want to buy, believe it or not, I want to buy 100 AI domains. Okay, but guess what? 80% are taken, right? So good names are not staying, right? Either by hand register or by investors or whatever the way, wholesale, whatever. So 80% names are taken, what comes in your mind, right? So it becomes very difficult daily basis. Like Josh just took 10,000 domains out of my hand because I was thinking same thing. Let's say I'm just example I'm using. So names are going fast. Good names are going fast, right? So where the chances from 1,500 names out of 50,000 names, right? And that is end of the crop. That's the way I think all the time. Look, I have
What a
no
great
choice but
conversation.
this, right?
Ragu, Milan, this is a good conversation. You guys are making good points. I have comments, but George has been patient. He joined us on stage. George, thanks for jumping up here. What question or comment do you have?
I thought hi DNX and hi everybody. Yeah, we talked about registering a lot of domains. So DNX, he said he has 1,500 domains bought. In my experience, I used to do that 10 years ago. I used to go crazy. I used to have up to 4,500 domains. Honestly, from my experience, I didn't make nothing from compare with the expenses. I mean, probably not even my money back. The
Yeah, but
secret,
the price is changed now. It's $4, $5, right? Please keep this in
yeah,
mind, not
yeah,
$25 or $30, right? So just to tell you.
right, even for free, even is $1. Sometime, if it's not something which is wanted on the market, and you plan just for 1 year, you think I'm going to spend 4,000 or 5,000 pounds. End of the year, let's see what happens. It's a very big risk. I have changed the strategy completely opposite. What I do is instead of going like 4,000 or 5,000, as we speak now, I'm less than 1,000 domains on all my accounts. And I select them very, very careful when I pick them. And the one I buy, the dropped one, which I'm going to give you guys because DNX was a bit not happy to discover the keywords. I can discover any keywords. I mean, I bought recently, and I'm going to show you guys what I bought recently for $10 or something like that with GoDaddy. If you choose something which is really wanted and you're lucky, you might make good money, but you have to be very, very, very careful on selecting what you're going to get, because year it goes before it starts. And if you have like 2,000-3,000 domains on your account, and then next year renewal comes, and
Yeah,
then
but your name is not Josh and you're not new. But now what happened if this idea picks up by a new domainer? Can you imagine? Right, so I'm afraid of that. That's the reason one of the reason of me discussing this is if this picked up idea by I don't call, I'm an OG guy, okay, and you too, and Josh is the expert and young man. So what I'm saying is if this picked up idea by young blood or a new domainer, can you see the damage, right? So even for $5 or because okay someone is following your conversation and then trying the same thing the guy has the money. I know young guys have more money than when I was young, okay, so they are willing to take that risk. But there is other parameters which Josh is using or you probably now talking about it. Why didn't you talk to yourself that 10 years ago when you were doing
I
this?
didn't have,
No, right?
I have no idea, Raul, how.
So this is what I'm afraid of. So I don't want this idea to be picked up by the newcomers, you know.
No, that's
Okay,
fine.
don't turn in.
Everybody,
Don't hold on, everybody. Don't turn into Arif on us because
I'll
and I
just
mean,
I'll just say I'll
Arif
just
will
say
be the
this.
one
I'll just
that'll.
say this
Yeah,
in response to
yeah.
George. The stuff that I've registered in the last like 45 days, I I need to check, but I think I've already broken even on it. So I'm gonna make money. In short is what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that's called expertise, right? That's experience or talent,
definitely,
all that.
definitely, definitely, there is money to be made on drop domain. Definitely, there's no doubt there. I mean, recently, probably 90 days, not even 90 days, I registered domain for $10 and sold for 2,500 after Nick. I've done that many, many times, like £5 because I'm from England, and I sold it for 2,500, maybe in 3-4 days. But that is completely a chance. It's a luck. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. You have to be very, very careful what you select. As we speak right
Sure.
now, I'm focusing more.
Is also luck is also probabilities, right? Josh chooses words that stacks up the probabilities. Raghu, to answer your question, it's a good thing, right? You want to be careful, whatever it is. But again, I think going back to the stats of what Josh is doing, if you or anybody new generates 50,000 names and 49,000 of them are available, then you're generating the wrong list, right? That means there's too much available. There's not much demand. In his specific case, he generated 50,000 names. What he said, well, he got 1.5. So 48,500 were already taken. That shows demand. So his experiment, the names he generates, yeah, sure, there's not many that are left, but that's a good sign. That's a sign of actually having quality if most of them are not there.
No,
So yeah,
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Out of 50,000, if 1,500 is of good names are available, it's the end of the crop. Like, I don't know how to say it, but it's like good
but it's
names
only
are.
3%. He's finding the little gems. He's finding the 3%. The things that might
Yeah,
have
but
been
that doesn't come from
a
that
few
comes
weeks
from the
ago, a
eye.
month
That
ago.
comes from the eye, and which is he said that he's using
His
the eye.
brain. It comes from his brain and experience, right? That's the thing. Like you got to know what words to use.
That's
You can't
right.
just do it randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do it randomly. But again, like if your results are showing that only 3% are available and 97% are taken, you're on the right track. It doesn't guarantee anything, right? But it's certainly a lot better than 97% of them being available.
Yeah, and not only
right?
that, I tell you his secret now, which I learned from him, is this: he has somewhere figured it out these names which he said he's already made even. For example, or like if he spent $10,000, he already sold $10,000, right? So that's another advanced step. You did some homework. For example, he had people in mind, he had some target in mind, they were definitely will take it, and he secured himself before he even went to this game, right? So that's even a good point, which I learned from this is, yes, I have people who are give me a list. They say, Raghu, whenever come across with the similar names, come back to me, right? So that is another part he did. So, or probably have in his mind, as soon as I invest $50,000 in this, I have someone lined up for me for $25,000 already. So I'm still safe. I'm playing a safe game, right? So that you have to keep in mind too. So probably some homework he did, some legwork he did. Make sure I'm going for this. I have some backup to at least recover my expenses, at least like becoming even, and then everything else is a bonus. That's what I learned from this conversation.
Well, Josh did say, and I like talking about Josh like he's not here. He did say he was testing this too. He's taking a chance. Sure, it feels good to get your money back. And he was talking about faith. And since he brought that up, I wanted to say a friend of ours sold faithworks.com for 38,000. I believe it was 30. Was it 38,000? Is that what Mike sold it for? Faithworks.com, 1 year hold. I believe he bought it for 3,500 and sold it for 38,000. But Arif, and I mentioned your name because you're always saying, hey, we want to make sure. And now you don't do it as much. You always want to protect new investors. But Raghu and George talking about that, new people coming in. First of all, Josh said he was just testing this out. And when new people come in to a space, well, the separate point I wanted to make was um, forget about the new folks when they come in. Basically, be careful. It's like being at the horse track, and this guy saying, "Hey, I'm going out there and going to really bet some long shots. So don't follow what I'm doing here. I'm testing it out. It may work for me, but not for you."
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we're talking about
let
more.
me like preface a little
Yeah.
bit. I would say I'm not testing them out in terms of like it's not a test in terms of like whether or not I will get my money back or make money this year, but testing them out to see if they're viable for the long hold, right? Like I want to like come next year I want to renew all these names. That's where the question mark comes.
In,
Yeah.
in
And here's the
Arif,
thing, like what Josh talked about earlier on, and like I often say too, like with volume, right? So when you have volume and you sell multiple, dozens of domains per year or more, you start to get a good feel of what makes a sellable domain versus non-sellable domain, right? It's something you think when you start, you know it, but you don't, right? And it's something, a skill that evolves over time. You get better, you refine it, you get better at seeing what sells and what doesn't sell. Josh enhances that more than I do because I don't really do much research for my domains. I probably should, but by volume, I just don't have the time for that. But I mean, he also does research on what keywords are actually in use. Like you listen to him, he goes to LinkedIn, he checks other resources where you actually check for usage. And so combine that with already having the skills of knowing, having that gut check of what makes a certain sell-through rate domain per year at a certain price point. Like you combine those factors together, and it's not a big risk. Again, like for me, I've never seen his list of these domains he's getting, but I'm sure if I look at it, I will not be surprised. And I'll go, oh yeah, I should be doing that too, right? Obviously, you never really truly know until you do it, as he said. But at the same time, when you come into this sort of experiment with a lot of knowledge and data, like it's really gives you a big head start. And it doesn't surprise me that he's already breaking even because,
Yeah.
again, he knows
I
what
think
domains to
I
get.
think that you can categorize domainers in two ways, right? There's like data-driven domainers that are buying domains based on data, and then there's like just guys that are good at domaining that buy based on gut. They like buying phrases. They like buying like just like names that sound cool, names that look cool, brandable names. Like I'm talking like guys like Sten, right? And guys like Arif to a certain degree. Where the data is not as important as the just like, oh, look at that name, is it a good name, right? And that's not my approach. My approach is I don't care what I think about the name. I only care about what the data says.
Okay, so this is something great as well. Everybody not expert like me on data collecting, okay? But for just a tip for newcomers or for us to remind ourselves, it's a good case study. This the way I'm looking at it. Mike Mann. Okay, if you go and case study about Mike Mann, you will find some pros and cons. What happens when you own 200,000 domain names? How what happens to him? What he made money? What he lost money? What he comes back? It's an amazing story. Okay, so that's another way of if you want to verify people who are new or this information, which is Josh is providing the up-to-date information, data-driven. I don't care what's the name. Perfect. This is the way. And tomorrow things are going to be changing again. And now, especially with the tool of AI, even better
On the
ideas will
topic
be
on
coming
the
from
topic
you.
of Mike Mann, Raghu is, and I'm guilty of this as well. It's like I bet you everyone in this room has looked at a Mike Mann sale and said, "Well, that's not a very good name. I might not even register that name." But that's because you're just looking
No,
at
I'm
it.
talking about the
But
volume. I'm
then,
talking about the
if
volume.
you
I'm talking about the
know, I
volume.
understand that. But when we're talking about like he's got a large, like most of his names were acquired through like hand registrations or just like very low cost, acquisitions, and he is a data guy. It's all data driven.
From
that's a
day one?
fact.
You mean
No,
from
no,
day
no,
one?
no. Raghu, I'm shutting the room down. We're done for today. But he's right. Mike Mann, that's the reason why when you see that he sells Hernandez Landscaping for 29,000, he says it's because of data that he priced it that way. He knows there's 40 companies that have Martinez landscape. He knows. So he's very data driven, very similar. When I say similar to Josh, when it comes to using data, now they use it differently. But for those who weren't here all day, Josh gave away specifically, hey, a bunch of names I registered end in finance. And he told us a lot of them were acronyms, but also keywords. You can't get more specific than that. So when it comes to searching, you can imagine nsfinance.com. And he's already given it away, and I'm glad he's selected, basically taken what he's wanted, and he's probably still going to get more. But you can imagine marketfinance.com. That's already taken, but it may be two words that were in his column. So when it spits out his list of what's available after he's checking, he's realizing, okay, afinance.com was taken. Marketfinance.com was taken. Those might be names that were ones that he searched because that's just part of, his lists on, the left, the first column and the second column, but he's given specifics. I suggest you use, you enter into industries that you're real familiar with, and you may want to use a word like finance, but an industry that you're familiar with, maybe it's better in the first place rather than the second, but it's already given you ideas. And then Arif said, if you check a bunch of ideas and a lot of them are taken, that's a good indicator, not always, faultless, but it's a good indicator that other people were thinking the same. And that's going to be it for today. We got a lot to do. We covered a lot, got a lot more next week. Join us every Thursday. Today was show number 25, which if you guys know, that means next week is half year, 26 weeks, okay, so we're doing this thing, but thanks for joining us. DNX Show is basically all about domain investing. We do it every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m.